In the wake of their highly successful movie, heightened anticipation for their next frontman, and the announcement of their largest tour yet, the hype for Ghost's sixth album was astronomical. On a personal level, this was the first time I'd ridden the Ghost train in the midst of an album build-up, so I bore witness to some interesting theories. Cyberpapa, Synthwave, Heaven's Gate, the fall of the Empire, even though that's what Impera was already about, and the new Papa being a woman because women, I guess. In retrospect, it should have come as no surprise that Skeletá continued the trend of arena rock and glam metal influences that started in Prequel. Or is it Prequel?
Dude, it's pronounced Prequel. Couldn't watch it any further. Correct your mistakes or lose subscribers.
Please, I'm begging you, don't unsubscribe. I promise, I'll start pronouncing things in a way that satisfies this person. Admittedly, it doesn't lend much credence to songwriter Tobias Forge's assertions that he never wants to repeat himself. I'm still holding out for a return to heavier, darker music in the future, but considering Forge's other comments about the earlier albums, maybe it's best to just accept reality and move on. On a technical level, Skeletá continues to impress. The compositions are bold and original, yet adherent to the conventions of 80s rock. Forge's vocals are the strongest they've ever been, and the new frontman, Papa 5 Perpetua, incorporating a half mask means the live vocals also sound the best they've ever been. Yet it's on a thematic level where Skeletá diverges. Whereas each prior album had a distinct narrative or theme, Skeletá is more a showcase of the various facets of the human condition, and each song totes its own emotional signature: hope, love, loss, hate. It might be Ghost's most paradoxical album, as it uses broad sweeping strokes to cut to the core of the individual. However, this focus on stripped-down emotional resonance results in Skeletá being Ghost's weakest album on a lyrical level. The hymnal, poetic quality of the prior album's lyricism, one of the things that drew me to the band in the first place, is significantly downplayed here. Some of these lyrics out of context read like Hot Topic pop rock. I swear I heard the words love and heart more times listening to this album than I have in my entire life. Yeah, it's no secret that I'm not as fond of Skeletá as I'd hoped. It's still good music by any stretch, and there are standout moments that are not only great, but Ghost levels of great. I guess I just wanted something different in a, different way. That said though, a more raw, simpler album is arguably what Tobias intended. In a world where the social temperature constantly peaks at a boiling point, and technology and politics continue to fracture us into smaller, more agitated tribes, perhaps something simple and meaningful is what we needed. So let's explore how Skeletá serves as a guide to a broken world. So remember when I said Skeletá was Ghost's weakest album lyrically? Well, scratch that for now, because Peacefield contains what's probably my favorite Ghost lyric of all time. Child, take your dark memories like seeds and plant them far from here. This is the invitation to the album's journey. Gather all your pain, trauma, injustice, and bury them deep, because despite their roots, time passing in conjunction with mercy, forgiveness, and love will make them light anew. The rest of the song is an anthemic decree of the narrator's intent to stand by the listener amid oncoming turmoil. The narrator, the biblical Legion, goads the listener to hold fast to their convictions despite darkening seasons and the incipient black moon, or rather, the solar eclipse, historically seen as a bad omen. The murders of Tsar Nicholas II and King Laius, the latter's wife Jocasta being the widow queen, are invoked as examples of passion taken too far, resulting in bloodshed. But despite the grief, Legion assures us that things will get better, and generations of self-reflection will eventually put us back with the bearer of light, Lucifer's embrace, where true freedom and peace are to be found. Things take a darker, more aggressive turn with Lachryma. Horror-inspired keys and stomping chords bring the song's vampiric subject matter to life. In this case, it's a toxic relationship where emotional energy is drained from the victim, manifesting in the form of tears, which is what Lachryma translates out to. Regret and sorrow eat at the victim throughout the night, but despite their efforts to move on, the lyrics suggest trouble under the surface. I cannot wait until the day when I'm done. The victim can keep telling themselves all they want that they're moving on, but for some reason, that time has not yet come. I need somebody new now. There's almost a predatory undertone to this line. If they move on to another partner, what will become of them next? Will the vampire return? Who really was responsible for the flowing of tears? Lachryma has been labeled a breakup song, but really, it's a song about self-deception and doubt, the disillusionment of who's really at fault in a toxic relationship. The vampire could be you, or me, or both of us, feeding off the other, yet blaming the other as well. Satanized is a standout on the album, with its waltzy rhythm and old-school ghost flavorings. It's a song about love, specifically the internal struggle of squaring away natural urges with societal conformities. These forbidden attractions are likened to a demonic possession, an unexplainable force that must have come from below, thus requiring intervention from above. The chanted Bible verse from 1 Corinthians proclaims the narrator's body is a temple for God, and not his own, and that he must adhere to God's word for his own sake. Still, the affliction overtakes him, and he even questions God's ability to cure him. He admits he's been satanized, sullied and tainted by his lust, cast away from God's grace, as Lucifer was. Of course, neither God nor the devil played any part in his urges. They came solely from within. And perhaps, being satanized does not mean being made evil. Rather, it means being made free, taking command of one's own body and desires, and applying them for another purpose, away from God's eye and Satan's clutches. Ah yes, the Arcane song. Originally, Guiding Lights was written for the Netflix series Arcane to accompany some character's death scene. I have no idea what this show is, so don't worry about spoilers. While it ultimately wasn't used in Arcane, the song fit in perfectly with Skeletá, a shimmering rock ballad about a lost soul wandering down the wrong path. Guiding Lights sound promising on the surface, but in context they're beacons that lead their victim down a road of nothingness. Nothing but empty promises and spiritual stagnation. The narrator begs the victim to see the truth, to turn back before the light takes them too far, and laments that they didn't do enough or say something sooner. The lights could be numerous things: a toxic ideology, an addiction, a blindness to truth. Either way, it's an insidious grip that could jeopardize a relationship if confronted. So, what's the narrator to do? Try anyway, and risk losing the one he loves? Or persist and walk with them, knowing fully well that the road ahead will be lonely and long? Plunging even further into the dark, De Profundis Borealis is Ghost's first black metal song.
I know it's not a black metal song, so you don't have to fucking get going.
Okay, well, sonically the song isn't black metal. Fluttering piano and driving guitars evoke a pulsing snowstorm, the same frigid conditions that inspired Scandinavian black metal. That opening motif sounds very classically inspired. The title translates to "From the Northern Abyss," befitting of the lyrics, a desperate cry for help from the frozen emotional depths of the soul. The narrator commands us to sink to those depths, mergi in profundis, and proclaims how grief, trauma, and despair can render someone a cold, icy husk, imprisoned in a palace of their own frozen tears. But there is still hope, for as long as we are still alive, as the sun can rise the following day, as we are able to feel love and forgiveness, then there's always a chance for the chains to break, for the ice to thaw. De Profundis Borealis makes you feel like you're trudging through a blizzard, but the fact that you're pushing forward at all, a beacon of heat against the cold, is a beautiful thing.
Or you could just put on a fucking jacket. Being cold builds character.
From the Northern Abyss, we arrive at what many deem Ghost's happiest song, Cenotaph. Major key brightness and a galloping rhythm remind of Queen and Meatloaf on long car rides through the desert. A cenotaph is an empty monument used to commemorate a deceased person. This person is long gone, not just physically, but also buried years in the past. Yet despite those buried memories, they blow in the wind regardless, flowing next to the narrator, never forgotten, even in light of trying conditions, like the peak of a mountain, the volcanic depths of the sea, or a bustling city brimming with chaos. People are never truly gone if you remember them, and it's their own love and support that transcends the bounds of death and accompanies you when you venture out into the world. In a way, as long as you can love, and are loved, death is never the end. I remember when this song was first reported as being one of the worst in Ghost's catalog, so imagine my surprise when I found that not only was it not the worst, but one of my favorites. Swaying, stomping chords breathe life into Missilia Amori, a self-described stripper pole song.
That was sort of a joke when I wrote it. It was like, it almost has like a stripper pole because it has that do-do-wah, do-wah.
Meant to emulate similar tracks by bands like Def Leppard and Kiss, but with a more sinister edge. There's at least 3 layers of meaning to Missilia Amori. The surface level, a crude reference to blowing your load in someone's face. The recipient's demise likened to La Petite Mort, the little death one experiences after a climax. But below that, we find another toxic relationship where love and hatred commingle, where the 2 partners despise, but also need each other, and the only way to seal such an unlikely bond is by domination and humiliation. Murderous rockets defacing your lover. Yet even deeper than that, we find a bond between 2 entities who have become addicted to each other's pain, at war for so long that they almost depend on it, and use it to justify their own existence. Hard not to look at war-torn countries peppering each other with missiles today and think, you love it. Rain your love rockets onto me, and feed my hate. I'll return the favor. For those missing the religious undertones and darkness of early Ghost, Marks of the Evil One might scratch that itch. Eerie riffs and cool synth lines usher in the apocalypse, led by the 4 horsemen from Revelation. More lines from Revelation are invoked, a satanically enthroned tyrant, and his marks, here meaning cronies or followers. The narrator insists the tyrant and his snake-like marks have brought about the end of days, shattering the 7 seals and accelerating damnation. But unbeknownst to him, the signs were there the whole time. The falling sky, and once again, the solar eclipse. Yet these are simply written off as abracadabra, a sham, fake news, in favor of blaming the tyrant. There are a lot of topical applications here, from election denialism to climate change. But overall, this song is a first-person exploration of fanaticism, how ideology is wielded to turn its followers against a straw man to burn down with anger, all while ignoring the real problems that affect us all. Better to strike at Satan and his army of snakes, than focus on what's already burning out there. Near the end of the album, things take a tonal upswing, with its epic synth lines chugging guitars and, cowbell. Umbra could be seen as the spiritual successor to Satanized. Instead of a subject squelching her desires under the thumb of an oppressor, Umbra says, "Fuck that. Let's not only express our desires, but let's do it right in their faces."
Step back, I think I'm gonna vomit!
Black candles adorning an altar, the shadow of Jesus overlooking them. These 2 have broken into a church to christen it with their own form of love, in defiance of its sanctity and dogmas. It's blasphemous, yet celebratory, expressing the truest and most primal form of being alive, sexual contact. The dueling guitar and synthesizers are not only some of the most technically brilliant music Ghost has put out, but is a perfect representation of 2 lovers playing out a flirtatious dance, flitting among and teasing the other, before finally pairing and releasing all that tension in one explosive end.
I tried my best to say all that without getting demonetized.
In typical Ghost fashion, we conclude with a somber ballad about the inevitability of death, a sort of post-orgasmic come-down after the burst of activity from Umbra.
Hey, those are his words, not mine.
While the lyrics are simple and straightforward, they encapsulate Skeleta's themes and sum up Tobias's prescription for the world we live in. Death should not be something to fear. It's a journey from worldly pains to otherworldly peace. Interestingly, the song invokes afterlife mythology from multiple sources: the Holy Land, an Abrahamic term, and the Rainbow's End, a reference to Bifrost, the Nordic rainbow bridge that links Earth to Valhalla.
I think it's also where the Fairly Odd Parents got its imagery.
This merging of unlikely afterlife imagery is a testament to the universality of passing on, and that the journey doesn't truly end, no matter what you believe. Yet despite that, there is an urgency at play. The narrator insists there's still time to love, to forgive, and make peace with those around you before death. It's precisely the ephemerality of life that makes these virtues so precious, and it's the ultimate impermanence of worldly malaises, such as turmoil, war, and hostile regimes, that should encourage us to hold on to and apply said virtues. I'd elaborate, but I'll let the man himself take over.
Our job is to maintain course, filling our lives with the good things that we know, doing more good things than bad, saying more nice things than evil things, and make sure that one day, when things change, we need to be friends.
Yes.
Death is a release, but life is a gift. An opportunity to make the best of what we've been given. Love, forgiveness, peace, and making your time on Earth an example of these things until your death is the highest degree of being. Excelsis.
In retrospect, this prescription seems pretty obvious, maybe even cheesy. But let's face it, we live in a cheesy world right now, to put it lightly. Politics are stupid. Culture and the battles waged over it are stupid. The way we communicate, view one another, foster spirituality, they can be stupid to the point of becoming cheesy. Sometimes we look out and wonder how things got to be this way. But even though change is possible, it cannot be accomplished if we forget those simple core virtues. And Skeletá is a psalm that reminds us of that. Maybe now I can appreciate this album a little bit more. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. As usual, this ghost video was a lot of fun to make, but I could not have done it without help. Firstly, to outzvoid for his amazing artwork based on each song from the album. You can find his Instagram in the description below. To my friends Joe and Abby for starring in the silent film scenes, and especially to Joe for making this wonderful mask for me. And finally, to all the creators who uploaded music, whether it was playthroughs or isolated tracks or live audio. It really couldn't have been done without you, especially considering the lack of amateur concert footage this time around. If you're a Ghost fan and you just found this channel, stick around. We do book reviews, video essays, and other literature and horror media themed variety content. And if you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe. And if you really want to support me, you can check out my book, Hell's Gulf, an absurdist horror comedy that takes place in Northwest Florida, which you know is scary enough as it is. Take care everyone, I'll see you all next time.